Thank you, Alan. And by the way, I heard Alan did a great job last Sunday filling in the pulpit. Proud of that young man. Are we connected to the web? All right, we got people that are tuning in from all over the United States, and that's not a joke. I was talking to a lady that I met in Tampa last week, and she told me that every Sunday afternoon, I don't remember what the venue, whether it was at a private home. I think it was no, it wasn't a private home. It was some kind of a public place that they have obtained. And every Sunday afternoon, they hook up the equipment. They have a big, large screen television, and there's, I don't know, 25, 35 people that show up every Sunday afternoon. They're in Columbia, South Carolina, and watch Liberty Fellowship. So we got people that are tuning in like that all over the country. A lot of people have their homes that they open up to people that they come and watch Liberty Fellowship. I got a trip coming up here on the East Coast here real soon. And one of the things I'm going to be doing, it's in the suburb of Washington, D.C., as I'm going to be meeting with some folks who are interested in setting up how do we say it, a Liberty Fellowship East Coast. So, yeah, is that cool or what? So it's just amazing the people that are watching around the country and yes, even around the world. So those of you that just tuned in, thank you. We're a little bit late in getting started. We've got a lot of people that are visiting here that we recognize from states and people that have just moved to the Valley. So we're glad that you have tuned in to us and watching us here online. All of us here at Liberty Fellowship on this Labor Day weekend, let's give these folks a real good ovation as they've just joined us. It's so good to meet a lot of you folks in Tampa, Florida as well, of those of you that are watching right now. I got this letter from Chesapeake, Virginia. Hello, Brother George. Praise the Lord for answers to prayer. My hubby and I are contemplating a move to Montana. And I just said I need to get George's email address so we can get some info. And lo and behold, I received Chuck's email containing your email address. God is so good. Did you get a bunch of emails this week, by the way? Yeah, I figured you would. Yeah, okay, about 30 this week, 30 inquiries this week about people trying to come here. That was as of Friday. We just read a story about the NORCOM troops that moved in the Flathead area, and we thought our brothers and sisters there in Kalispell were praying for your safety. I think you've probably heard something about that. They've got some training exercises going on around here with NORCOM here in the Valley. We'd like to have some real estate info, etc. Thank you in advance. We love hearing Brother Chuck and seeing all the Patriots there in Kalispell on Sundays. It's the highlight of our week. God bless you all as we head through these perilous times. Sincerely, Amber and Jerry in Chesapeake, Virginia. Well, we're looking forward to seeing you folks ASAP. Hello, Pastor Baldwin. Good message. I'm a longtime listener and a Joel Skousen fan as well. I also had a home in Florida, Perdido Key, in the late 1990s, early 2000s, until Ivan destroyed it. I love that area, but certainly respected your wisdom in making the move to Montana. I sold my property in Florida as well. My present problem is wondering where to live and with whom. I am alone, and as you mentioned, there is safety in numbers, and so this is a serious concern for me. I'm in very good shape health-wise, plan on keeping my health, but I presently lack people who I can network with in my Ozarks farm homestead area. I may consider having someone live in my Ozarks place in exchange for doing some work. I'm a master gardener, EMT, first responder, proficient in various survival skills. Can you recommend how I might find a few individuals to network with? Thanks in advance. Any ideas you might share with me? Well, Susie, the best thing I can tell you on how to find people to network with is to move to the Flathead Valley. And this is the greatest network of patriots you're ever going to meet. Short of that, we'll just pray that God will put you in touch with some folks there in the Ozarks that have a like mind and a light heart. I pray that that will happen. Thank you very much for your information. After living in the city of North Pole, Alaska, may I add a bit? In the wintertime, people would place snow around their homes to help insulate it in such extreme cold. The plastic bags that cover clothes coming from the cleaners, maybe slipped over a person's coat and helped keep out the wind. If a person is short on blankets and newspapers, if your feet are cold, put them inside a paper sack. Now, dears, may I plead with you to put a package of gum in your survival kit. There's no food value in gum, but read a short story, and I believe you'll see the value of having this cheap, easy-to-get item. Back years ago, Ralph and Helen got into a small plane in Alaska. Shortly after entering Canada, their plane crashed. They soon ran out of food, but they each had a stick of gum. They chewed their gum for over 2 weeks while waiting to be rescued, and it gave their mouths something to do. Thanks again to Chuck, and we know that we are in perilous times. Get some gum. Actually, I think that's one of Trapper's ideas too. Jason, hi Chuck, thank you so much for standing up for righteousness and justice. Why are so many of our brothers and sisters and even ministers so blind and cowardly? Rhetorical. I appreciate your article about the money changers. So many ministers today have no guts and are corrupt. I don't want to talk about how honest money and so forth. Anyway, thanks for actually teaching the whole word, not turning a blind eye. Keep up the good work. Rick, Pastor Baldwin's messages. This is the highlight of my letters for this week. Listen to this one. Pastor Baldwin's messages have brought me to the Lord. I listened to the audio links quite a lot. This started with the much older links, and I thought they could not be accessed any longer. Now with the newer link, I'm able to listen even more. In Liberty, Rick. Thank God for Rick. And then one more, Jeff, I got the Freedom Documents today. Maybe I slept during American history. I don't remember any of this. I always said school was mostly about passing a test that taught us nothing but a date and the event, not really basic understanding. And I only took a break from reading the Freedom Documents because I need to get up tomorrow and go to work. I've learned more about our history in the last 3 hours than I have in the last 57 years. Everybody needs to get one of these. Keep it up, Jeff. Thanks, Jeff. All right, some letters that we got this week. Open your Bibles with me, please, to Psalm 120. Would you stand with me very briefly as we read this short chapter together? Psalm 120. In my distress I cried unto the Lord, and he heard me. Deliver my soul, O Lord, from lying lips and from a deceitful tongue. What shall be given unto thee, or what shall be done unto thee, thou false tongue? Sharp arrows of the mighty with coals of juniper. Woe is me, that I sojourn in Mesech, and I dwell in the tents of Kedar. My soul hath long dwelt with him that hateth peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Thank you. You may be seated. I got a lot of ground to cover in this message. I hope that you will stay with me and help me give you this information that I think is so critical for us today here at Liberty Fellowship, those that are watching by the internet and those that will be watching later on the video. I am for peace, David said, but they are for war. I want you to notice, first of all, in verses 1 through 3, the distress that David found himself in. He said, in my distress, I cried unto the Lord. He was in distress. What was the distress? Number 1, slander. Deliver me, O Lord, from lying lips, from a deceitful tongue. Slander. The reason people slander others is for the purpose of elevating themselves. The reason that they belittle other people is because they're trying to exalt themselves. That's the reason why people slander others. States do the same thing. They impugn, denigrate, and marginalize people for the purpose of aggrandizing the power and the authority of the state. Slander is a very vicious and evil assault against honest men and women. Albert Barnes, the great commentator, writes this: "In my distress, in my sufferings, as arising from slander, there are few forms of suffering more keen than those caused by slander." And then he quotes relatively famous prose: "Whose edge is sharper than the sword, whose tongue outvenoms all the worms of Nile, whose breath rides on the posting winds, and doth belie all corners of the world. Kings, queens, and states, maids, matrons, nay, the secrets of the grave, this viperous slander enters." He goes on to say, "It is one of those things which a man cannot guard against, which he cannot repel by force, whose origin he cannot always trace, which will go where a vindication will not follow, whose effects will live long after the slander is refuted, which will adhere to a man or leave a trait of suspicion, even after the most successful vindication. For the effect will be to make a second slander more easily credited than was the first." Slander, the vicious attack of good men. Matthew Henry says this: "He was brought into distress, into great distress, by lying lips and a deceitful tongue. There were those that sought his ruin and had almost effected it by lying. By telling lies to him, they flattered him with professions and protestations of friendships and promises of kindness and service to him, that they might more securely and without suspicion carry on their designs against him, and might have an opportunity by betraying his counsels to do him a mischief. They smiled in his face and kissed him, even when they were aiming to smite him under the fifth rib. The most dangerous enemies, and those which it is most hard to guard against, are such as carry on their malicious designs under the color of friendship. The Lord deliver every good man from such lying lips." Secondly, they destroy him by not only telling lies to him, but by telling lies of him. They forged false accusations against him and laid to his charge things that he knew not. This had often been the lot not only of the innocent, but of the excellent ones of the earth, who have been greatly distressed by lying lips, have not only had their names blackened and made odious by calumnies and conversation, but their lives and all that is dear to them in this world endangered by false witnesses bearing in judgment. David was herein a type of Christ, who was distressed by lying lips and deceitful tongues. Again, Matthew Henry. Slander. Slander from within and slander from without. There's probably not too many of us in this audience here at Liberty Fellowship that could not speak to the fact that they have been the objects of intense slander from people that they thought were their friends, people that they thought were their loved ones, maybe even family members. Slander from inside the family, slander from inside the church is a heinous attack against righteousness and honor. I would remind you that in the formative days of our country, the early colonies had far more to fear from the Benedict Arnolds than they did from the King Georges of the time. And such is the case for you and I today. Those false friends, false allies, who pretend to love us and pretend to be our friends, but who secretly are conniving our death and our destruction, who are slandering our names and our characters behind our backs. And as they hug us from the front, the knife of slander cuts and slashes our backs. It is an intense distress that David is here expressing. And I can vouch for that. How about you? I can vouch for the fact of what it means to have people that you thought were your friends to say the most evil, vicious, vile, wicked, untruthful things about you, things without merit, things without cause. It's like a man, it's people that you've done the most to help, people that you have done the most in their personal lives to help and assist and be a friend, are the ones that have turned out to be sometimes the sharpest and most bitter enemies. It's like a guy came up to a preacher one day and he said, "Pastor, did you hear what so-and-so is saying about you? He's saying all kinds of terrible, mean things about you." And the preacher kind of, shrugged his head and scratched and said, "Boy, that's odd. I don't remember doing anything especially nice for him lately." Anybody can identify with that? Slander from within. But then there's also slander from our enemies. People who despise the message of liberty that we preach. People who despise the message of truth that we speak. And who have set themselves against us. Who will do anything they can to slander our reputations in order to further the attacks against us and to put questions in people's minds as to whether or not anything we say can be trusted. I have heard of people, even here in this area, who had read some reports. They didn't know anything about who the people were that were spreading the reports, but the reports called me and you, as part of Liberty Fellowship, racists and extremists. And they didn't even know the source of those accusations, but the mere accusation that we were racist gave them cause for concern and say, "Oh, I don't think I want to go there if those people are a bunch of racists." And by the way, you might be interested to know the source of that accusation was none other than the Southern Poverty Law Center. The SBLC is on a mission, ladies and gentlemen. The mission of the SBLC is to destroy the character and the reputation of anyone who believes in constitutional government and the principles of liberty. The SPLC is given huge financial grants by the federal government in order to do all these phony research papers on so-called militia groups and patriot groups that they will throw in together with someone who may be a known racist or extremist, and by association try to stain the reputation of those who would speak the truth for liberty and for freedom. That is what the SPLC is all about. So for the benefit of the SPLC and people that may read anything that they produce, I asked some of you families right before the service to come up here and join me on the platform. If I ask you to come up here, would you do that right now? I need all of you folks that I asked to come on up, to come up. And I want to introduce, this is just a few of the people that I got with right before the service. I want you to meet some of the people of Liberty Fellowship and get a little bit of an idea as to who they are that come and worship here, come and are part of Liberty Fellowship. And the camera, we're going to try to get everybody. So I want you to come up. No, let me just get you to come up to the pulpit one at a time. Let me just have the DeLapp family come up first. Come on up over here. And this is Rick, and this is his wife Margot and their children. And Margot is from
Korea.
Margot is from Korea. This is the husband and wife and their children that are a part of Liberty Fellowship. Thank you very much. Right over here. Right over here. Introduce yourself.
Aaron and Angela McGinty.
And Angela is a Mexican lady, and they're part of Liberty Fellowship. They were here in the Valley before we got here, and they've been a very faithful part of our fellowship ever since we got here and ever since they came. They've been here almost from the beginning. And this is another family here at Liberty Fellowship. This is This is the famous George Hudson. Almost as famous as Trapper. And this is his wife, Teresa, and this is their niece, Joy. Teresa and Joy are from Beijing, China, and they are very faithful members here of Liberty Fellowship. Thank you very much. This is Robbie West and his wife, Kizzy. They came from another state to be part of Liberty Fellowship. They are faithful members of our fellowship, very involved. Kizzy helps us with our nursery. They're just really good folks here at Liberty Fellowship. We have Caucasian and African American here. They're a man and wife, and they're definitely a wonderful part of the Liberty Fellowship family. We love them like we love everybody else in this fellowship. God bless you. Thank you very much. Just a sample, Mr. Morris Deese, of the kind of people that we have here at Liberty Fellowship. So the next time you hear somebody say that Chuck Baldwin and Liberty Fellowship are racist, I hope you will do your best to set the record straight. If nothing else, buy the DVD, tell them to watch the DVD, and recognize that the people that are saying these things are nothing more than liars. The distress David talked about. Number one, slander. Number two, the sojourn in verse 5. Woe is me that I sojourn in Meshech, and I dwell in the tents of Kedar. Meshech was a son of Japheth. Genesis chapter 10, verse 2. His posterity are thought by some to be the Muscovites and the Scythians, a barbarous sort of people. Meshech is frequently mentioned with Tubal and his brother, and with Gog and Magog in Ezekiel chapter 38. Here they are referred to as Asiatics, or the Cappadocians, as reports Josephus, the great Jewish historian. I dwell in the tents of Kedar. Kedar was a son of Ishmael, Genesis 25:13, whose posterity were the Arabians. Barnes writes, the idea here is that they were a barbarous, savage, and uncivilized people. They dwelt outside of Palestine, beyond what were regarded as the borders of civilization. And the world seems to have had a signification similar to the names Goths, Vandals, Turks, Tartars, Cossacks in later times. The point here is David is saying, I'm living among savage people. I'm living among barbarous people. I'm living among people that regard not life or property. I'm living among evil, wicked men. Woe is me. I am surrounded by evil, wicked men. Notice that the marks of the savage man are basically twofold. The mark of a barbarous man, the mark of an evil man, the mark of a wicked man is basically twofold. Lying and killing. John chapter 8, verse 44, Jesus said to the Pharisees and their sort, ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. He was a murderer from the beginning, and abode not in the truth, because there's no truth in him. When he speaketh a lie, he speaketh of his own, for he is a liar and the father of it. Satan is known most for his lying and his killing. And the people that he influences most are also known for their lying and for their killing. I think we can say like David, woe are we, because we live among liars today. The national media is lying to us. The federal government is lying to us. Many of our state governments are lying to us. Our colleges and universities are lying to us. Our pastors and churches are lying to us. Our medical doctors are lying to us. And unfortunately, many times we are lying to one another. Woe is me, because of where I live and the people among whom I dwell. Verses 6 and 7, look at what David says here. My soul hath long dwelt with them that hateth peace. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. David said, I live among people that hate peace. How can anybody hate peace? How can anybody who claims to be a Christian hate peace? Isaiah chapter 9 and verse 6, Jesus is the Prince of, everybody, the Prince of Peace. Jesus was announced in Luke chapter 2 with the promise of peace. The angel said, glory to God in the highest, and on earth peace, goodwill toward men. Jesus promised peace to his disciples in John chapter 14 and verse 27. Peace I live with you, my peace I give unto you. Not as the world giveth, give I unto you. Let not your heart be troubled, neither let it be afraid. David said, I am for peace. Now this was a man of war. This was the man of whom they sang the songs, Saul hath slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s. David knew war. David was a master at warfare. But he said, I am for peace. 1 Timothy chapter 2, verses 1 through 3. I exhort, therefore, that first of all supplications, prayers, and intercessions and giving of thanks be made for all men, for kings and for those that are in authority, that we may lead a quiet and peaceable life in all godliness and honesty. For this is good and acceptable in the sight of God our Savior. Do you notice this? A quiet and peaceable life in godliness and honesty is good and acceptable in the sight of God. Goodness and honesty beget peace. Ungodliness and falsehood begets war. Are you following me here? David said, when I speak, I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Now, if you believe in marking your Bible and you want to make a note that I think will jar your memory for years to come, when you come across this verse of Scripture, take your pen and right there near verse 7, write Ron Paul. Read it again. I am for peace, but when I speak, they are for war. Ron Paul is the only presidential candidate in 2012 that has brought the message of peace to the American people. And when he spoke, his opponents and his party said they are for war, including Mr. Romney, who has said repeatedly that he favors more intervention in the foreign affairs of other nations, who has said publicly that he is for taking aggressive war campaigns into the Middle East and wherever else is needed, who has publicly stated his support for the same war doctrines of Barack Obama and George W. Bush. And for the most part, the message of peace that Ron Paul has brought to the American people has been rejected. It's been rejected by pastors. It's been rejected by churches. It's been rejected by conservatives. It's been rejected by the Republican Party. Like David, we sojourn in Meshach and dwell in the tents of Kedar. Never have we seen a display of deceit, chicanery, and subterfuge as we did among the Republican National Committee this past week. It has been one of the most ostentatious, egregious examples of duplicity deceit and dishonor that the American people have ever witnessed. It is a disgrace to the Republican Party and to the people of this country in general. It was so disgusting that the Republican governor of Maine, Paul LaBarge, boycotted the convention due to the outlandish display of dishonesty and bullying of the Republican delegates from his state of Maine. And ladies and gentlemen, Mitt Romney did absolutely nothing to stop it. He knew what was going on, and he allowed it to take place. What the Republican Party did, and if you're not privy to this, then get on the internet and wise up as to what took place. The delegates of Ron Paul were bullied. They were cheated. The party broke their own rules. They did everything they could next to tar and feathering the man and the delegates that were legally represented, legally there to represent his campaign. It was disgusting. And then they changed the rules so that in the future it's going to be very, very difficult, even more than it already has been, for independent-minded, freedom-oriented candidates like Ron Paul to ever have any delegates at the national convention. It is a stacked deck, ladies and gentlemen. There is nothing free and fair about the elections in the United States of America today. We might as well be in Russia. There wasn't the first thing free about it. There wasn't the first thing fair about it. Talk to any of the delegates that were there, and they'll tell you what happened. And then after all of that, after all these months of being ignored by the media, being laughed at by the media, being impugned and denigrated by the media, and then by all his own fellow Republicans like Giuliani and all these others that laughed at him and impugned him and denigrated him on national television, and then the treatment of his delegates there at the party convention this past week in Tampa, adding insult as if all of that isn't bad enough. Can you tell I'm upset? As Ron and his wife Carol and one of their granddaughters was about to get on their private jet to leave Tampa as a fitting establishment slight to Ron Paul, he and his entire party, using a private plane, were delayed. They were swarmed by 8 TSA agents. Private plane. Congressman of the United States of America for 24 years, presidential candidate in 2008 and 2012, swarmed by 8 TSA agents. Lou Rockwell posted the story, quote, Ron, Carol, and one of their granddaughters left the GOP snake pit yesterday afternoon, but the state was not yet through with them. At the little airport in Clearwater, 8 TSA agents descended on them and ordered them not to board their private plane. First, the pilots, the airplane, and the passengers would have to be screened in great detail because Romney might be nearby. TSA said that Ron Paul, 76 years of age, Congressman of the United States, his dear wife, who has had many physical ailments, including she wears a pacemaker for her heart, and their granddaughter might be threats to Mitt Romney. After a long examination of the pilots and their credentials, the agents said they had to check the plane for explosives. The plane was full of fuel, so the plane might be an explosive. Let me ask you something. Would any of you want to get on a plane that wasn't filled with fuel? What are you supposed to do? Take all the fuel off the plane and take off? Well, we got just enough to take off, folks. Then they demanded that Carol go through an automated screener, and she refused to do so. And about that time, an aide started filming with a video camera what was going on, and when the TSA agents discovered that they were being videotaped, they left. That's the kind of insanity, the kind of treatment that is given to a 24-year, tenured, stellar congressman of the United States and his family simply because he had the guts to stand up and tell the truth to the American people. When I was in Tampa, and I've been to Tampa many times. I lived in Florida for 35 years. I've been through Tampa, St. Pete, Clearwater, that whole Tampa Bay area numerous times, very well acquainted with it. Never in my life have I felt what I felt from the moment I got off the plane until the moment I got back on the plane. I felt like I was in 1930s Stalingrad or Munich. The police state was everywhere. Do we have those photos? I want to show you real quick. We're going to have to move this so you can see it. I'll bring it right back. You see that? Maybe hit the lights just a little bit. Can you give me the light real quick? Just real quick. Just 3 or 4 slides. Taken from Tampa. All right, that's good. Go ahead. See that? Look at that. Were there any riots? No, there were no riots. Was anyone violating the law? No. Was anybody trying to burn down a building or attack innocent people? No. There was nothing violent going on. Look at that. Look at that. That's just one shot. How many more you got? One more. Look at that. Those are the scenes and the sights that I saw everywhere in Tampa. You could hardly drive 2 or 3 blocks without seeing people clad in armor, the Kevlar, the SWAT, the stormtrooper type attire, military type hardware, tanks, armored vehicles, everywhere you went. In the airports, the guys walking around with all the dogs. And I know there was a Republican convention going on, and I know that you're going to have a little bit tighter, but I am telling you, it was like a police state. And I'll tell you something else. What we witnessed in Tampa, and I'm sure they're going to witness it in Charlotte under the DNC coming up in a few days, is what we're going to be seeing in the major cities of the United States all the time. This is our future. This is where we are going. This is where America is headed. The biggest issue confronting the people of the United States of America today are these incessant foreign wars and this burgeoning police state that's being constructed right here at home. I ask you, what in the world sense does it make to be fighting wars thousands of miles overseas in the name of freedom, and then turn right around and steal freedom from our own people right here at home? And the only presidential candidate that addressed this issue was Ron Paul. And I promise you, it's not going to matter to a hill of beans whether Barack Obama or Mitt Romney is elected in November. This police state is going to continue to grow. The surveillance society is going to continue to grow. The incessant foreign wars are going to continue to build. There will be no change in the fundamental issues affecting our freedom, no matter which candidate is elected in November. And here is the thing that really is personally troublesome to me. Our churches and pastors today, and I am not trying to be critical. I am not trying to be unkind. I'm trying to be a realist. I want you to realize when you listen to these radio preachers and you watch these TV preachers, and many of these men are good men. Many of these men teach sound doctrine. Many of these men are personally righteous men. They live good lives. They have good families. They have good reputations. They're good men. They're not evil men. They know the Bible. They preach the Bible. You can learn things from them. You can be inspired from them. But what are they not telling you? What are they not telling you? They are either witting or unwitting accomplices of the growing police state, which is predicated upon the facade of war. They're not warning their listeners or their viewers about the growing police state. They're not warning their listeners about the loss of our liberties and our freedoms here in the United States. And it's as wonderful it is to talk about all these great Bible verses and Bible themes and Bible subjects and Bible stories. What good is it if we're not applying it to what's going on right in front of our eyes? What's it going to matter when they kick down the door of your house and come in and seize you and your family without a court order, without a warrant, without cause, without representation, without a lawyer, and take you off to jail and don't charge you with a crime and leave you there for years and do not even give you the benefit of legal counsel? What good is it? When are we going to realize what is happening to our country? When are the pastors and churches of America going to get out of their party mode and start facing the war that is being thrust upon us? Somebody wrote a song, "Onward, Christian soldiers, marching as to war." What good is that song if we can't fight for the fundamental liberties of what makes us a free people? What good is it to sing "Onward, Christian Soldiers"? What good is it to teach all these wonderful Bible truths and walk out of church and say, "Oh, wow, I took a lot of notes and I learned a lot today"? Oh, really? Well, what are you going to do about those drones flying over your house? What are you doing about the computers that are tracking you and the TSA that's listening to your cell phone conversations and reading your emails and building a dossier on every man and woman in the United States of America and already in the process of creating the technology to put some kind of electronic devices into our kids so as to track them to and from school? Do you know that there are school districts in America today that have already implemented putting these portable tracking devices on the children that come to school so they can track the whereabouts of those children every day? That's already being done in certain cities across America. One of the most respected researchers, analysts, and commentators in the country today is a dear friend of mine by the name of Joel Skousen. He charges for his newsletter, but it's worth it. I want to read you a few quotes from his latest newsletter. He brought me to tears with his newsletter this week. He writes a long, he takes a lot of space, a long discussion in his newsletter to talk about the injustices of what happened to Ron Paul and the delegates in Tampa. You ought to read that. It's worth to read that, exactly what happened. The illegal, immoral, unethical way that Ron Paul and Ron Paul's delegates were treated in Tampa by the Republican Party. But then toward the end of his newsletter, he writes these, and he talks about the future of liberty in our country. And this is some of the things that are, it's too long to read it all, but I picked out a few things. Joel writes, the people are no longer worthy of liberty. Americans as a whole are soft, materialistic, and too content with life to fight, let alone recognize the loss of liberty. As long as they are allowed to go to church and buy what they want, they think they are free. But the noose is tightening. The youth are even softer, so the trend is in the wrong direction. Americans may still consider themselves a religious people, but religion for the most part doesn't change their little bad habits. So at some point their religion is not leading to righteousness. They stop listening to the refining voice of conscience. Religious people don't even honor the Sabbath anymore. To the Lord, listening to the personal promptings of conscience is where the real test of religiosity lies, and most Christians are chronic violators of conscience in the little things relative to weight control, nutrition, recreation choices, use of time, and failure to discipline children. Trouble is, this callous disregard for the still small voice leads to bigger problems and worse decisions. That is why immorality and divorce are high among even churchgoers. There are notable exceptions, but in general, America is getting more unworthy to be saved by God. Number 2, he says, Americans are lazy about finding truth. Today, more than ever, with the vast information on the web, the truth is out there, except for most of the deepest and darkest secrets of the conspiracy. And if people don't find it, something is wrong with them relative to the workings of conscience and self-control. That's my point. Far too many people have become immune to the faint warning signals that something is wrong. Or if they do hear it, they are too busy searching for material welfare to care. Number 3, he says states have become corrupt too. It is only partially true that state and local governments are easier to reform than the federal government. All state governments have corruption problems, and some states like California, Illinois, and New York have corruption machines that rival the mafia. Most large cities are also totally corrupt inside. That said, some states are clearly less corrupt than others, but there is an establishment good old boy network closely allied with the liberal press in every major city that works together to make sure that no Ron Paul or free market revolutionary gains control. And then Joel writes, what about the God is in control argument? He says, optimistic Christian conservatives always throw out the argument that God is in control, and so we don't have to worry. He has the power to change things. As a believer, I agree. He does have the power. But the real question is, will he intervene to save us? And is America worthy of being saved by God? I don't think so anymore. That doesn't mean all is lost for everyone, but it does point to us heading for a great period of tribulation and the loss of liberty at the national level as it morphs into the New World Order. I'm a religious person and keep my eyes open constantly, searching for signs that God is intervening as he did in the nation's founding. allowing a set of leaders to rise to positions of influence where they can turn the tide, or even allowing major financing to come to principal people so they can bypass the establishment media or schools and fund a national movement to renew America. Nothing has happened. The big money only goes to ineffective or mainstream causes. We do have ample numbers of great thinkers with ideas and principles as profound as America's founders. By the way, we've got some of those people right here at Liberty Fellowship. You look around, we got some people just as he described right here, just as profound. We do have ample numbers of great thinkers with ideas and principles as profound as America's founders, but none have been allowed to rise in power. Ron Paul got the closest. Those ministers who have achieved great wealth and fame in televangelism have done so by singing the easy gospel that people want to hear. Those that have been granted access to the White House prayer breakfast meetings during the Bush administration were those who refused to speak up or criticize the big government or war agenda. All the real champions of freedom have been left on the sidelines. Ron Paul is the only one to even get close to a run at the presidency, and he's been shut down, but not without building the movement. I've seen God's hand helping to gather the remnant, but no indications of any real optimism toward beating the mammoth evil that is growing even faster than the liberty movement. Considering the overwhelming moral evil in our nation that burdens the Lord's sense of justice, I think he is bound to let the sword of justice fall. You can't just manufacture specific faith in a proposed event by hope only or wishful thinking. For specific faith in a hoped-for event to be valid, you have to have the spiritual confirmation that it is the Lord's will. And that must come from God himself, not rosy-eyed optimism. While the Lord may certainly want the nation to be saved, God cannot arbitrarily disregard the decree of justice upon which the universe operates. Only upon terms of repentance and change of heart can condemnation be averted, and I don't see that happening. I'm keeping an open heart in mind that it might, but the signs aren't good. As I read that, I thought of the voyage of the now famous or infamous Titanic voyage. We all know the story. The point I am thinking of is however it occurred, and I have some ideas that we have not even been told the truth about how and why the Titanic sank. Another story. As the Titanic was sinking, porters were running throughout the ship, warning people to get their life jackets, warning people to go to the lifeboats, warning people the ship was sinking. And you know what the vast majority of people did? They laughed at them. They laughed at the porters that were trying to save their lives. They stayed at the bars. They stayed at the tables. They stayed on the dance floor. When a lot of those wealthy people went into the sea, they were wearing their furs and their jewelry. They didn't even take time to try to get to the lifeboats. So when someone like Ron Paul comes along and says, we cannot continue deficit spending forever, there is an end. You cannot continue to disregard the basic principles of sound money forever. There is an end. What happens? He's laughed at. He's impugned and denigrated. When Chuck Baldwin or Stuart Rhodes or anyone else, Tim Baldwin, when they get up Jerry O'Neill gets up and tries to warn people about the principles of truth relative to these issues that we all hold dear. What happens? They're ignored, impugned, denigrated, laughed at, like the porters running up and down the Titanic. A man, and I'm not trying through this to be too critical of this man, but it serves so well as an illustration of what I'm saying. A man who visited Liberty Fellowship not long ago said he knows what's going on and said he felt inclined to move to a safer area and was thinking about coming to the Flathead Valley and instead, I guess, decided to go somewhere else. And in the process, he spoke to my son Tim, and this is what he told Tim as to why he's not coming to the Flathead. It's too cloudy there in the wintertime. I don't think we can handle that. Sir, with all due respect, clouds are engulfing the entire nation. The clouds of oppression and servitude are enveloping the entire country. A few inclement days are the least of our problems. And I would rather live in cloudy weather with the bright sunshine of freedom on my shoulder than to live in a land of sun and labor under the dark clouds of tyranny. Which brings me to Skousen's closing remarks. We can still fight for liberty to gain a minority foothold within the nation, a resistance movement, if you will, even if we can't win back the whole. But when you're dealing with a minority of good people, to exercise any power at all, you have to congregate together so that you have a majority or a region or local area. Our greatest problem in a losing battle of attrition is that we are spread out uniformly across the nation, dispersed in a sea of humanity where none of us constitute a majority. If there is any hope, still quoting, if there is any hope for liberty, if you don't remember anything else I've said, please remember this. If there is any hope for liberty, it will be because pockets of liberty and resistance form during the next war when government itself is busy saving itself and not targeting freedom-loving dissidents yet. I think you'll see the time when crisis comes that the social unrest will drive people out of their current places, and the Lord will inspire those who can listen to go to places of refuge where other like-minded people are also gathering. Some will be inspired to go to safe places before the crisis, and if you are one of those, heed the promptings. Close quote. I have maybe a slight different take. I think whenever the crisis comes, it will be too late to relocate. The PTB will not allow relocation at that point. But the crisis is coming. And when it does, you and I, Liberty Fellowship, will be glad we are in the Flathead Valley of Montana. And we will be glad that we are brothers and sisters. David said, they are for war. All of the momentum for a police state is being fostered by America's, and conservatives and Christians, war fever. The excuse for the police state is we are at war. The excuse for the surveillance society is we are at war. The excuse for cameras, the excuse for technology tracking our phone calls and reading our emails is we are at war. Everything is excused by we are at war. And the more the Republican Party and the Christians and pastors and conservatives clamor for more war, which they are, what they don't realize they are doing is they are putting the shackles around their own necks, legs, and arms. Let me give you 5 things in closing that we must do. Number 1, we must truly awaken to what is happening. You've got to wake up, folks. It's not about the malls and the shopping centers and the weather. It's about the loss of our fundamental freedoms. It's about our children and grandchildren growing up as free men and women or growing up as slaves. That's what it's about. We've got to wake up. Things are changing in front of our very eyes, quickly and dramatically. So fast we can't even keep up with it all. And people are worried about things like they were back in the 1950s. They're thinking about house. They're thinking about clothes. They're thinking about all kinds of pretty things, nice things, and all these things, and they're not giving a second thought to what's happening in front of their very eyes. We must truly waken up. Awaken to what is happening. Wake up. And number 2, we must understand the importance of having a moral and spiritual family, quote unquote, upon which we can trust and depend. These people that think they're just going to stand on their front porch with their 4 and their more with their M16 and they're going to withstand the forces of the New World Order, that's a dream world. Benjamin Franklin said it right, and it's something that we can't ever forget. Either we hang together or we will most certainly hang separately. And that's true for 2012 as it was in 1776. We're either going to stay free together or we're going to go into slavery one at a time. And a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand the importance of this fellowship. They don't understand the importance of getting to know one another. They don't understand the importance of earning each other's respect and trust. When the crisis comes, I'm not going to trust my life with someone that I don't know. And I'm not going to depend on someone that I don't trust. This is life and death, folks. This is not kick the can. This is serious stuff. The founding generation knew they had to fight together, serve together, worship together, pray together, play together. They knew they needed each other. And they joined together as brothers and sisters in a cause for freedom and liberty from every denomination under the sun, and even some that claimed no denomination at all. But they were brought together in brotherhood for the love of liberty. And if we don't do that again, we are sunk. We need each other. You that are living in the Flathead and you're not coming to Liberty Fellowship with kindly, as I know how to say it, you need to be here if you can, when you can. You need to get to know us. We need to get to know you. You need to trust us. We need to trust you. You need to befriend us. We need to befriend you. Thirdly, we must be willing to endure hardship in order to prepare our hearts as well as our community for what is coming. Good grief. And I said it again. I said it from the very beginning before we even came here. The cold winters, to me they're not that cold, but the cold winters of Montana are not a curse, they are a blessing. They keep out people who aren't serious. The sunshine soldiers don't like Montana. Good riddance. We don't want sunshine soldiers in Montana. We want men and women who are serious about preserving freedom in Montana. If you're not serious about it, don't even think about coming here. The winters are too cold and too long if that is your attitude. There aren't enough shopping centers. We don't have enough nationally known chain restaurants, which I kind of like. But one thing we do have here is I've seen more people in this area that love freedom than I have in any place I've ever been, and I've been 150,000 miles crisscrossing this country over the last few years. I know about what it looks like out there, and I can tell you I have seen more freedom-loving people here than I have anywhere else that I know. Number 4, Christians must draw close to Christ and to one another. If you're a Christian, you need to draw close to your Savior. You need to get in this book and read it. And you need to be on your knees in prayer. And you need to give of your time, your talent, and your treasure to the Lord. And let God see the seriousness of your heart. Prove the sincerity of the love you say you have for God. There was an old bumper sticker that was out years ago. I'm dating myself now, but it said, if you love Jesus, tithe. Anybody can honk. Christians have got to get serious about their faith. This is not a playground. It's not a recreation room. This matter of serving God and being the salt of the earth at this time in our generation requires sincere, dedicated, bold, courageous, mature Christian men and women. Not little babies looking to be bottle fed and have their diapers changed. Christians need to draw close to the Lord and close to each other. Number 5, we must continue to lift high the banner of truth and love for everyone to see. Right now, that banner is not appreciated by a lot of people. They're all caught up in materialism. They're caught up with fun. They're caught up with party. They're caught up with money and all of that. We've been on a materialistic fix for several decades. And people are constantly injecting themselves with the drug of materialism and money and wealth and prosperity, and they don't know how to live without it. And so any message that they hear that doesn't line up with that drug addiction of wealth and money and prosperity, they reject. They don't want it. It scares them. They don't want anything to do with it. They don't understand it. But the day will come. The day will come. The day will come when the only message that will make sense is the message of truth and freedom, the message that we proclaim every Sunday right here at Liberty Fellowship. The day will come when that message will be hungered for. that message will be thirsted for. And when the crisis hour comes, it'll be that message that will bring people not only to the message of truth as it relates to liberty, but it will also bring them to the message of truth that relates to salvation and redemption in the Lord Jesus Christ. Because without him there is no hope. Let me just leave you with Psalm 39, 4 verses 3 through 7. I think they're so fitting. Psalm 39, verses 3 through 7. David said, "My heart was hot within me." Look at the next phrase. "While I was musing, the fire burned." While I was thinking about it, the fire was burning. "Then spake I with my tongue, Lord, make me to know mine end and the measure of my days. What it is, that I may know how frail I am. Behold, thou hast made my days as a handbreadth, and mine age is nothing before thee." I like that statement for several reasons. One reason is, it doesn't matter how old you are. God can use you in your senior years more than he did in your younger years, if you're willing to let him do it. Our days are set by God. A lot of us will not even live to be old men or women, because God will require our soul before then. But for those of us who are, we can still find God's power in our lives. Our days, our age is nothing before thee. However young you are, however old you are, God can still use you. God can still prosper and bless you. "Verily, every man at his best state is altogether vanity." Selah, think about it. "Surely every man walketh in a vain show. Surely they are disquieted in vain. He heapeth up riches, and knoweth not who shall gather them. And now, Lord, what wait I for?" Here's what I wait for. "My hope is in thee." Let's stand for prayer.